Hey everyone, um, welcome back to the YouTube channel, or welcome to the YouTube channel, depending on how it may be. What I've got next is probably a number of Linux videos. Let me give you the basic idea of what I'm trying to do here. Um, I'm looking at whether or not Linux is viable for the average user. Although I'm not necessarily the average user, maybe I like to think I'm a little bit above that, but maybe not. In any case, with the things going the way they are, with Windows 11 coming up, knocking a lot of people's hardware out of the game because supposedly it's too old. Um, I mean, yes, there are ways around it and so forth, but there's also a lot of the other stuff that I keep hearing about, things that Windows 11 is going to be doing that they're probably uncomfortable for some people, but what are you going to do? Anyway, here's the premise of the series that I'm going to put forward. We're going to go through certain aspects of Linux, installation, looking at software issues, what software is available, what's not available, can we do things with it. There will be some things that will be very easy to do because the software is there. Obviously, you got web browsers that are there. You've got email clients that are available. You've got plenty of stuff that is available, but there are some areas where Linux is just plain lacking, as much as people may or may not want to admit it. I'm sure I will get all kinds of hate comments and hate email from the fanboys. Don't care. I just don't. But what I'm basically going to try to do here is give you my perspective, see if it's something that we can work with. Maybe reuse some of your older hardware that may be laying around, and go from there. So again, I am not a Linux expert. I don't claim to be. I specifically am going to be dealing with Linux Mint in this series of videos. I'm sure I will get all kinds of interesting comments and email about, oh, you shouldn't use that, you should use this, and blah, 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 blah. Linux Mint is what I've decided on. It's what I'm familiar with. You want to do another distribution? That's obviously on you. And I'm not going to sit here and argue with it because it's not worth my time. Anyway, as I said, I'll try to do this in chunks and see if we can, at least digest some of it. Our first installment will be installing the operating system, and we're going to be doing a completely Linux install here. We're not going to be able to rely on a dual boot system and rescue ourselves through Windows or whatever if we can't find something. I want this to be from the perspective of Linux is the only operating system we're dealing with. We need to find solutions that are specific to Linux. Also, we have to be able to find things and do things through the GUI. I know a lot of you guys who are Linux guys like to talk about doing command line stuff. I need to stress this to you. I am looking for ways to do things on Linux, specifically Linux Mint, but other distributions, that can be done from the graphic user interface, not relying on command line. I know there are some things you simply can't do through the GUI. I understand that. What I'm looking for feedback from you guys is I'm looking for all GUI solutions, things that can be done through the desktop without having to rely on the command prompt. That's what I'm looking for. So if you want to give me that kind of a feedback, I'm all for it. If your solution is command line, you're already out of the game. I know that sounds pretty hard. I know that sounds maybe ridiculous, but again, you have to try and gear yourself towards the thinking of, I'm looking at, well, let's just say for the sake of argument, my grandparents have never had a computer. Can they do everything they want to do on Linux Mint with older hardware that I know is not quote unquote compatible with Windows 11? And do they need a lot in the first place? They probably don't. They can probably get done fine using Linux Mint. They're probably not going to be playing any games other than probably solitaire or mahjong or something of that nature. And that's what we have. That's the goal here. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. So this first installment that you're going to see here is installation and some very, very basic things that you probably want to do after you get the system installed. So with that in mind, let's get to it, and hopefully the series will be something that you'll be interested in. All right, so here's our system that we're going to install Linux on. As you can see right now, at the moment, it has Windows 10 on it. We're looking at a Ryzen 2200G, which is Zen Plus, if I remember correctly, 16 gig of memory. This is running off of a 512 gigabyte NVMe drive. So at least the installation should go pretty quickly. But as I've mentioned already, we're going to put Linux Mint and only Linux Mint on this machine. There's a reason for that, which I'll explain as we go along. Anyway, so the first thing we're going to do is obviously we're going to put in a thumb drive for Linux Mint 21, which that shows up right there. Now we're going to just reboot the machine and boot off of that thumb drive. And we are going to wipe the drive and install Linux Mint. As always, anytime you want to do stuff with your system, you should be making a backup before you do any of this stuff. So with that being said, we're going to wait for the screen to come up. F11 for boot menu. There we go. There's our UEFI. There's the UEFI. Okay, we're going to select that drive. We're going to do a Linux Mint install, or start it, I should say. And it will come up with a live session. And once the live session comes up, we will go through the install procedure. And I will go through some basic stuff once it's installed that you should probably take care of right after installation. Okay, we're set. We have a connection. We don't need to see that. That's fine. Now you can sit here and play with Linux if you want to before you install it. There's lots of categories here about things that you can do. We'll get into those as the series goes along. But for right now, we're going to do the install. Now, if you want to install Mint alongside your Windows installation, I already have a video that I produced, which I will leave a little link to up in the video about how to put both operating systems on. But again, the purpose of this is to do a Linux only installation and see what we have, what we can come up with, what is available for it, what's not available for it. You want to install the multimedia codecs right off the bat. Make sure that those are going. And it will let you do it if that's what you want to do. And you'll have other choices. Again, my previous video shows you what choices are available and what you can do, but we're going to do the second one. We're going to just erase it, and we're going to install Linux Mint. So once we do this, there's no going back. It gives you a warning about making changes and following partitions and so forth and so on. Hit continue. It will ask you for the time zone, which in my case, it's correct. And you have to put in a username and a password. So let's just, for the sake of our argument, let's just put it in as Jim. And I'll put in a rudimentary password. And they match. Now you can set it to require the password to sign in right off the bat, or you can let it go right to the desktop. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I would not, if you're new to Linux, I would not choose to encrypt the home folder at this point. I would just leave it alone. Hit continue. And it will go through the installation process, which I will speed up here for brevity. And once it's done, then we'll restart the system, and I will show you a few things that you should probably do as soon as you've got it up and running. Okay, as you can see, the installation went pretty quickly. It says that you can continue to look around the system if you want to. But basically all we're really going to do is we're just going to restart it after we pull out the thumb drive. So you're going to hit restart now, and it will prompt you in just a moment. Remove the installation. So we're going to pull out the thumb drive and press enter. The system will reboot. Okay, so we're here. We're at the password prompt. Obviously, we'll put in the password that we set before. It will give you this little welcome screen where you can go through the different sections here for steps. You can do all these here. The system snapshots we're going to get to that in just a little bit. System settings. There's all kinds of stuff in here. And you can go through these one at a time if you like. That's entirely up to you. Then you've got all your documentation. Most of it's actually on the web. And you've got that. So we can uncheck this, close this. We are going to go through some of the steps that are listed here in the first steps. I'm going to specifically look at the update manager, the system snapshots. You can look at system settings and software manager. We're going to get to all of those here. So let's close these. We're going to go here, and you can search for whatever it is that you're looking for. So for example, if we do the time shift. Now time shift is very much like system restores on Windows. And anytime you want to do this, it will prompt you when you go to set it up. You need to have the password because it is going to mess with system files. So you can go to next. It's going to estimate the size that it needs. And that's right there. We'll hit next. And here's the schedule that you can keep if you want to. You can do daily, weekly, monthly. It's entirely up to you how you want to do that. I would suggest that you not do hourly. You could probably do boot if you wanted to. Daily, I don't know. I tend to go with weekly. That's just me. You're obviously going to have to decide for yourself how frequently you want it to go. We hit next, and it's going to go in here and take a look at things. You can do hidden files. You can include all files if you want. I would probably do the hidden files or include all. It's entirely up to you. Include all is going to take care of everything. But that'll increase the size. So you can do it any one of several ways here. It's up to you. I'm just going to leave it at the default. Hit next. The setup is complete. Hit finish. And you can manually create them if you want, which is simple. Hit the button. It will go through. It'll set up the snapshot of the system. Once it's done, you'll see the snapshot come up in the list. And something else you probably also want to be aware of is that it will take as many snapshots as you tell it to, and it will keep them. The list will grow and it will grow. My advice to you is if you're going to be doing weekly or daily, you want to come back in here and look at this and keep track of how much disk space is being eaten up by this, and decide that, you know, how many do you actually really want to keep. So, okay, there's your snapshot. So we're basically done with this. Next thing I want to do is, you'll notice way down here in the in the right corner, you've got a shield here with a little dot on it. This is the version of updates for Windows, basically. So you've got security updates, software updates, and so forth and so on. Just hit OK. And it says there's a new version of the update manager, so we're going to apply the update. Now again, these are things that you should probably do as soon as you have the system installed. And it will go and it will apply the new update manager. It will restart and it will show you all the updates that are currently available. You want to go through and do these as soon as possible. So we're going to hit install updates. It's also got a new Linux kernel, which will require a reboot. The one thing about Linux is most system updates don't require a reboot of the machine. Kernels do. Kernels definitely require reboots of the system. So it's just telling you all the stuff that it has to install for the new kernel. You just basically hit OK. Again, it's a system level function, so you need to put in the password to authorize it, and it will go through and it will do these updates. Now, if you want to see what it's doing while it's doing these updates, it's very simple. You basically just go into the area here where it says details and click on that, and it will show you all the things that it's doing. So you can actually, if you see something, you know what's actually being done. Basically, you won't have to really look at that all that much. There's the new kernel going in. Anyway, as I said, this is nothing more than system updates, just kind of like exactly what's in Windows, except for you can install them or not install them. It's entirely up to you. However, if there are changes, if there's a new Linux kernel, you probably want to make sure you, at a minimum, do that one. The rest of them, maybe not. You'll have to decide that for yourself. Okay, so we basically have the updates done. There is this one thing that I will show you real quickly. It says if you want to do local mirrors. Now, normally it will pull all this information from Linux Mint itself. That may tend to bog things down. So the one thing you want to try to do is go to a local mirror. So we're going to hit yes. Again, it's a system level function. Okay, and then the first thing we want to do here is we want to click here and just double check. It will give you a list of mirrors or repositories, if you will, where you can get your updates and so forth. And it shows you the relative speed. So if you pick something that is at least in your country, you want to at least try that. But notice that there are different speeds of which you can get these. So I tend to go, it goes from high speed to low. So I'm going to pick the first one, obviously. Hit that one. This is the next one here. Again, we're going to go through the list. And we have several options here. Within the US, obviously, I would pick something that's in your country. And it looks like the best one here happens to be this one right here. So we're going to hit that one as well. And hit OK. It will update everything so that it knows where to get all of its updates from. And that's it. We're done with that one right there. At this point right now, since we have a new kernel, I would suggest you reboot the system. So we'll go in here and we will do a restart. Okay, sign back in. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to go in here and look at system info. This will tell you everything you need to know about the operating system. It is on 21s. It's on Cinnamon desktop. It tells you which version. It tells you which kernel. Shows you what processor, how much memory, what the hard drive is, so forth. You can upload the system information if you want and share. No personal information is included. Just to share, put it into a database that this hardware of this system works with Linux Mint. I'm not seeing any problems, etc., etc. So that you can do that or not do that. That's entirely up to you. So we've got that. All right. So you'll notice that our little shield here down in the right-hand corner is now clear. It says the system's up to date if you hover over it long enough. There's this thing right here, a little exclamation, some system reports that require your attention. I would look at this as well after you've got the system updated. So it's going to run some checks. It says about some language packages that are missing. So you can install language packages if you want. And it's going to say what it's going to install. Again, you have to give it permission. This is no more different than UAC on Windows when it keeps asking you for the password. Okay, we can go into here. Again, here's more system information, a little bit more detailed about what it found for hardware, what drives, and all the other stuff there. And there should be no crash reports. There are no crash reports, so you got nothing to do there. So that one's done as well. Okay, now I am going to do a very basic demonstration of how you find software for Linux. You notice that I typed in the word soft and we have Software Manager. Software Manager will come up. It will take a little bit to generate the cache that it needs. Once it's done doing that, there you go. You have categories of software. What is it that you want to try and play with? You have Skype, which is available. There's Blender. You have a bunch of stuff here. If there doesn't seem to be anything up here that interests you, you might want to go into some of the other stuff that's here. Sound system tools. There's programming. There are games. Not the games you're probably used to. You have graphics. You have all kinds of stuff. If you think that something's available on Linux, you can double check. For example, well, let's go with something obvious. Look for OBS. OBS is available on Linux. It should look exactly like the Windows version it is, so you can install that if you want to. There should be so I couldn't find that. So let's take a look and see if it finds anything here. And I don't think it's going to find what I'm looking for. Yeah, I know that DaVinci is available for Linux. I can't seem to find it for some reason. Let's take a look and see if we can find it this way. All right, that seems like a bit of a bust. Okay, so it's not in what's called the repository, so you have to go to the web directly and get it. But again, if you're looking for anything in software that you think is available, Software Manager is your go-to place. If, for example, if we're looking for, let's say we're looking for some sort of system tools, there's all kinds of stuff for you. And it will show you what's already installed in the system. Anything that has a green check mark is already installed on the system. So if you've got an NVIDIA graphics card, you've got tools for configuring that. But those are your ways of finding software. You can go back here. Steam is available. VLC should already be installed. If you have any question, it will tell you that it's actually installed, so you don't have to do anything here. All right, I think that is pretty much all I have for right now. There are all kinds of things that you can go through here. You have a backup tool, which we can get into. You have got, you can look at your disk usage, and it will take a look at the drive and it will tell you what's being used. So that shows you what's being used, what category it's in, etc. So we're using about 18.2 gigabytes for the system. So you've got that. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's anything I want to touch on real quickly on this first installment. We'll get into a lot of this other stuff as we go along. You've got firewall configuration, which generally you won't touch that. And this is pretty much, you've got power management, same thing as what you would have in Windows. You've got screensavers you can set up. So for example, let's do that one just for the hell of it. If you go into the screensaver and it goes into the settings here, the standard settings are 15 minutes to change screens. You can customize all kinds of things in here, but most of the time you probably won't be touching this. That's a delay before starting it, so that's fine. Now, if you want to set something other than this rather basic background, you can right click on here. You can do change desktop background, and you've got several options to choose from. You've got these here, but if you go into where it says here Vanessa, it will show you all of these backgrounds that it can do. We can go into settings. We can do play background as a slideshow. And you notice immediately it comes up with the one. It says you can do them in random order or as they're listed. That's entirely up to you. I'm going to, just for the hell of it, do this. And let's set it for 5 just to drive me crazy. And that's it. And pretty much as you're sitting there, it will change the background every 5 minutes at this point. So that you've got some, again, this is not much different than Windows desktop themes. Really is what it amounts to. So anyway, I think that's probably it for right now. There are other things that we can get to as time goes on. If you have something in particular that you want me to focus on, leave comments and we'll go from there. Anyway, that's it for, I think, part 1. We'll see how many parts there are to this series. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments that you want to make, obviously, please do that as well. Again, keep in mind that I have a passing familiarity with Linux. I am in no way an expert. I'm giving you my take on this. It may or may not be the correct take. There probably will be plenty of people who will tell me how terribly screwed up I did this. But hey, it's YouTube, and that's what YouTube people do. They have a tendency to really criticize. And, you know, that's what happens. I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again real soon.